Hi, I'm Michael Igen.
And I'm Steven Skeel.
It's a little bit of a background for those of you who might not know who we are at Seven Wonders Cinema. We're an award-winning video content agency, specifically Emmy award-winning, bi-coastal company. We've worked with a lot of Fortune 500, Fortune 100 clients. We've worked with small businesses, startups, and we have a lot of experience in the marketing space.
In Focus is all about brand building through storytelling. And we figured that as our first episode, it would be a fun exercise to explore our own beginnings in this industry. Really 10 years of storytelling. I think our technical LLC founding was 2015 and it's 2024. So legally 9 years, but the name existed. Several projects existed in 2014. So I think technically 10 years, we can say.
And I'm going to say something Steven's not going to want to hear. But our first name, for those of you who might not know, it was very short-lived, as in a week. I know he's going to cringe, was Pixel Vision Entertainment. So
We thought we were being so clever with, we need to somehow make it sound digital and modern. But the domain search is the biggest barrier to any company. You pick a great name and then you literally go on GoDaddy or whatever and like everything's taken or it's $50,000. It's like insane. So
Pixel Vision was not taken, and I think it wasn't taken for a reason. So I remember being at a friend's house and telling his family, we were all having dinner together, hey, I started this company and it's called Pixel Vision Entertainment. And they just go, cool. And I was like, wow, that is not the response you want. Pixel Vision is not the name.
yeah, we had some other what I thought were clever ideas. Our initials MASS, mass media, but that was taken. And also, I don't know, mass media might have not a connotation that we want either. But we chose Seven Wonders because we wanted to create work that gave people a lasting emotional experience, a lasting impression. And even though most of the Seven Wonders of the Ancient World don't exist anymore, they still carry this grandiose idea and this gravitas. And that's something that we wanted audiences of our work to have that same feeling. So I think it was a great name. The domain Seven Wonders Cinema was available. And then later on, we were able to get just Seven Wonders, which is an awesome domain.
Yeah, and that costs us a lot more money.
What we're going to be doing through this show, as Michael alluded to, is exploring brand building through storytelling. And we're going to be primarily doing that by interviewing guests who are clients, colleagues, experts in their respective fields. We have a really cool suite of guests lined up over these next couple of episodes. And then sometimes it'll be Michael and myself talking or talking to folks from our internal team about cool innovations and things that they're working on as well. So hopefully this will be enlightening to folks looking to understand a little bit more about brand building and the marketing landscape today. So we're really excited about it.
And this does not just have to do with video. It's more of a holistic marketing thing. Obviously, we're always going to tie video and photo back into it, but it's more of a holistic idea.
As a fun first episode exercise, and also maybe a fun way to commemorate 10 years of building this business, we thought it would be exciting to ask each other some questions that we've pre-written but not shown the other what they are, just to spark a trip down memory lane and some of the things we've learned over the years. That's what we're going to dive into now. I don't know, Michael, if you want to go first.
So what do you think was your most impactful moment of the business to date?
That's a good question. I mean, because there are so many, obviously, and so many twists and turns, and growth of the business is never a straight line. A pivotal moment was the success of our short documentary, All American. We had put this very early on, I think maybe 1 or 2 years into the company, we had produced this short documentary about one of the last surviving paratroopers from D-Day, and it got a lot of notoriety and attention and won several festivals was an official selection at an Academy Award qualifying festival, and it got distribution ultimately from National Geographic, which led to attention from other big outlets that ultimately became some of our initial highest profile clients. I know The Atlantic distributed it, and they're still a client today. And I think that was pivotal because it gave us credibility to go into business meetings to say, oh, we could do something like that for your brand, and really took the pressure off of trying to prove ourselves, I think, initially. So that's what I would say. But I'd turn it back on you. Do you have a very different answer?
I would say that was definitely one of them. I'd say the other one was probably midway through COVID for me.
Yeah.
And I remember distinctly we had gotten our first marketing channels to work, and we really started landing clients via marketing ourselves. And we had always said marketing such a powerful tool, marketing such a powerful tool, but we never really saw the power of marketing ourselves. And really, the catch-22 of marketing is you have to have enough success to see the value of marketing. You can't just do marketing with a you don't have to have a ton of success, but you have to have more success than most people think, more social proof than what people expect to then be able to do marketing. And I remember when we started really landing some clients specifically through email, and I was like, whoa, these are some big name companies.
Big names.
And I was like, I mean, definitely All American was up there. But for me, I mean, that Atlantic meeting, I distinctly remember that. That was a pretty pivotal moment too. But the marketing channels working really solidified in my head, okay, this is a business that we can continue to build and be successful in. Because before that, everything was word of mouth, knocking on people's doors. Who do we know? And it's terrible, but that's really the way you've got to start a business.
I figured that when you asked that question, there's probably going to be two components. There's going to be more of like a project success-based component, and then also like a back-end business fundamentals component. And you're totally right, because you can't amplify a message if there's not credibility or social proof behind it. You need to have that. I mean, whenever we would start researching ways to market our brand, they would say the first thing is, what's your differentiator? Like, what's your value proposition? It's like, if you don't have any credibility, then you don't have a value proposition. So that's totally true. Obviously, we both went to NYU. We were in film school. I know you were also doing business minor and things like that. What made you want to start a company as opposed to go into corporate advertising or corporate entertainment in that type of track?
I mean, I think it's really what I know, right? To some degree, it just felt right. My parents are entrepreneurs. My grandparents were entrepreneurs. To me, when we met and we just started doing projects, it just felt right to keep doing that. I went into school thinking, oh, I'm going to work corporate at Universal Pictures, or I'm going to do this and that. And the more I learned about the industry, the more I learned, maybe I don't want to do this, and maybe I don't want to do that. I want to do things a little bit differently. And yeah, I think it just worked. It felt right.
Yeah.
So why not keep doing it?
I also feel like when people ask me that, I don't feel like it was some monumental decision at any point. Like, it wasn't like, oh, you need to get a job or you need to decide if you want to do this. What we were doing was just like building our portfolio. Like, even if we had wanted to go into a corporate environment, the way you stand out in this industry is by having work experience. And the easiest way for us to do that was having an LLC to do it.
Well, that's so true. I remember numerous times, even when we graduated, being like, are we going to make enough money to support ourselves, to support even when we had our first few staff members, to do this, to do that, and thinking, oh, well, corporate could always be a backup. But at a certain point, I sort of just eliminated that as a thought in my head, because it just feels natural doing what we're doing now. And this is what we know how to do. I think it's a unique skill set, knowing how to run a business. I think just like working in a business is a unique skill set, but this is the unique skill set that we now know and been trained for. So we should capitalize on the opportunities we have with our skill set. So that's sort of the way I think about it. And to some degree, business is a transferable skill universally. It can translate from our business to, I see a lot of the skills that I have translate to my parents' business, to um, a lot of other companies. When I'm just talking to people, they can understand we have a fundamental, holistic view of business versus just a specific skill set at this point, which is cool. I never thought, oh wow, this would be the way that we'd end up, but I'm happy with the progression.
Yeah.
The way it's gone. My next question is going to be a fun one.
Okay, go for it.
What's your favorite thing about running our company?
I would say my favorite thing about running our company is, even though we are in a largely remote world, how we operate remote work, the shared successes, both just us as founders and owners, but even with our team too, like getting over a big client hurdle or achieving success with a specific project or initiative, things like that. It's really exciting to be able to share that with team that has been building so hard to achieve those goals. And I think about, like, so much of our industry is this freelancer gig economy type world, and it would be really lonely, honestly, if any one of us were a solo operator, solopreneur type of thing. Like, the industry is tough and you need a support system. Like, it's really important, I think, to have a support system. And so the thing that I enjoy most is like the shared successes through the struggles, both with you as a co-founder, but also when our team has success, just seeing that come to fruition.
Yeah, 100%. That's what I would say too. And seeing a happy client at the end of the day, I think is
Yeah.
like when someone sends you a message, wow, this is amazing, or
Yes.
so happy. It's like, man, they have no clue how excited we get internally when they do that.
Yes. Yeah, our Slack channels have different little animations and pop-ups and things to celebrate. I love it. How has the industry changed in the past 10 years?
Well, I mean, a lot has changed since we first started 10 years ago. I would argue, and a lot of, I think, industry professionals would argue, people that I've talked to, this has potentially been the most transformative decade in filmmaking, in video making, in marketing ever in history, because technology is advancing so much.
Yeah.
I would say that there has been a fundamental shift from quality of content in terms of visual quality to now authenticity in storytelling. So quality is easier to make in some ways, more difficult than other ways. I'd say
Lower barrier with technology, yeah.
clients also, they're valuing more authenticity in content. So stuff like with what we're doing today, social media videos, stuff like that. But obviously, you still need brand campaigns, TV campaigns, stuff like that that need to be high quality. But this is another avenue that can be more frequently accessible. And that is just a total change from
Yeah.
when we were getting out of film school. And filmmakers need to find new avenues to make money. A lot of them are becoming creators, YouTubers, stuff like that, and that's a much more successful medium at the moment than traditional filmmaking was.
Mm.
So, what was the moment you think you learned the most about business?
I wouldn't call it a moment, more of like a phase that we had to go through, which pairs nicely with your earlier answer about getting the email marketing channels and just marketing channels in general established. I would say, like, the period of time that taught me the most about business was when we had those marketing channels firing and me and you were taking 6, 7 sales calls a day because the marketing was converting these lead appointments so consistently. The amount of reps that we got in going through a sales cycle in such a short amount of time because of how quickly the leads were getting booked on our calendars. I feel like we got MBAs in like a 2-month span because you're all of a sudden, it's not just one phone call, it's 3 phone calls with a proposal in the middle and the follow-up, and then we're thinking, "Oh, shoot, we're losing leads because we're not doing a more robust long-term follow-up situation if leads haven't converted right away," and we're hearing so many objections that we're having to overcome. Like, I would say that phase, which I would probably say was like a 3 to 4 month phase several years ago, that I think that taught me the most. Like, it was just such a blitz at that point, and we were growing so rapidly that there was a lot to learn on the fly at that point.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't thinking you were gonna say that, but that actually makes a lot of sense. I look back on that time period. It is really interesting to think about how many sales meetings we took.
Yeah.
And you just get a pulse of what clients want versus what they don't want. And people always ask us, well, how do you know what the client wants? How do you know how much they're willing to spend? Well, we've been on so many sales calls at this point, we can almost just feel it in our gut.
Tell. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a weird thing to say because that's like the most non-answer ever. But it's like, I can just feel it in my gut how much someone's going to be willing to pay or not via an initial conversation and just what do they want? How do they feel about something?
What is your favorite funny moment over the past 10 years? If you were trying to explain this situation to someone else who had no knowledge of what we do, like what is going on?
Oh God, there's so many. There's so many. I mean, the one that always comes to mind is when we were filming the reggae music video when we were first starting with an artist named Yami Bolo, and Yami Bolo was in the back seat of what was then. I mean, we were still in college or just out of college.
Yeah, I think so. Or just graduated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was driving my family's old Escalade, and it was filled with gear, so I couldn't even see out the rearview window. And we decided we wanted to park somewhere in the vicinity of Times Square in New York. And I had to parallel park with you, Yami Bolo singing in the back seat.
Yeah, and this is like a Grammy award or nominated or winning reggae artist
Yeah.
who was just so aloof, like just singing, not aware of what's going on.
Yeah, and of course, that's fairly normal for a musician, but, he was quite the character and, the one of the nicest people, but yeah, he's just in the back seat singing away, and I'm trying to parallel park with all this traffic, can't see out the back seat with this giant SUV.
Yes.
So,
Oh my gosh.
that's whenever anyone says, how did you learn to parallel park like that? I say, well, I have a story for you. And that's
That's great.
how about you?
A lot of the ones that come to mind are like early days, definitely, because we had to scratch and claw for any opportunity. When we were filming with Mercedes in Manhattan also, and they just like handed us a car to drive around Manhattan, and we're just like, okay, okay, that was pretty crazy. Or when we were trying to get shots on, I think it might have been for the Nick Hansen music video, which was way back, on the Brooklyn Bridge.
Oh,
And it was 5 a.m. because we wanted to get the sunrise. And there's a bike lane on the Brooklyn Bridge where bikers are just like whizzing by, whizzing by. And at that time, before the super easy gimbal setups of today, it was this big gimbal that you needed Allen wrenches and screws to assemble.
Yeah.
The Brooklyn Bridge has these wooden slats with holes in between them where a screw could very easily fall. Our hands are like freezing and we're trying to like use these wrenches as bikers are like flying by. There were a lot of moments like that in the early days, for sure.
My final question for you is a bit more personal of a question and more related to storytelling as a whole. How do you think that having both of your parents be published writers has influenced you as a storyteller?
It's a good question. I think we were very fortunate in starting the business to have all 4 of our parents collectively have knowledge that was able to help us in the early days of our journey. My dad being a law professor, we were able to consult him on certain aspects of starting the LLC and things like that. And your parents, obviously, a lot of entrepreneurship experience and even making introductions to vendors early on and consultants and things like that was really helpful. But I think the creative gene that my parents have in terms of writing was definitely passed down to me, but not passed down in a way that they had any expectation. My parents have like really very limited interest in movies at all. And also just like no connection to this world.
And for those of you who don't know, Stephen didn't have a TV growing up, right?
No, I did not have a TV growing up for many years. We eventually got one that just had like the weather and sports, and that's it. But I had VHSs and DVDs, and that's what I lived off of after that. To answer your initial question, storytelling has always been something that has fascinated me, and I think that comes a lot from my parents. My mom's books with dance and research and stuff, there's like a documentary gene, I think, that she has in the research that she had to do for that. And so that helped in terms of their feedback on projects as well, and especially in like middle school and high school, kind of developing a voice, I think was helpful to have them as people to bounce ideas off of. So we were very fortunate, especially in the early days, to have one, just the support of all of our parents, because it is a competitive industry and it's really hard to stand out. But also I think each of our parents brought a unique skill or specialty of advice that they could pass along to us. I remember very early days before our like very first sales pitch meeting, your mom pretending to be the client and like having us come in and try to share, and her being like, "No, I don't want that. I'm not buying that." This is this is tough. And I think we were more than prepared to go see the actual client after that.
Yeah, I think she was a tougher client than the actual clients were a lot of times.
But that's a great question, and we are very fortunate to have had their support, and to this day, and I think it's cool for them to see the growth of the business all these years as well. My last question for you, let me preface this by saying I don't think we will ever feel, quote unquote, like we've made it. I feel like we're always gonna not feel like we've made it yet. But is there a moment where you felt like, okay, we're in the big leagues now? Like, okay, like we're no longer the guys that are just hustling, trying to prove ourselves. Now we're like legitimate.
Yeah, basically, we're the guys who started in a basement versus we're a real company.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
Yeah, and I think to what you're saying too, our thoughts naturally lag to where we actually are. And I always feel that we're doing less than we actually are. That's just
Yeah,
inherent in who we both are, I think. And I think that's inherent in the entrepreneurial gene. That's
yeah,
you're always wanting to strive to do more. I'd say the moment where I thought, man, we did something really cool was I can distinctly remember it was during the summer. I was at the shore and I took a sales call with a big company and they had submitted a form on our website and I got on the call and I gave them a number for what they were asking for and they said, okay, send us the paperwork. And that was the end.
there weren't grilling questions. There weren't.
Yeah, they weren't grilling us with questions. They weren't, where's your credibility? And I was like, wow, we built a strong enough brand and we know what we're talking about enough that someone can assess us online, read our websites online, look at our client list, look at our examples. And this person had done all that before they hopped on the call, submit a form on our website, and be ready to buy from us from our website. Now, of course, it's not always that simple, but I remember thinking that was one of very few times that it's been that simple. But I remember thinking, man, that is pretty cool that we were able to build a brand that did that. I was like, man, that is pretty awesome. Not a lot of people can say they've done that. So that was a big moment in my head, that I was like, we're playing in the leagues now.
Yeah.
Do you have a specific moment that stuck out in your head, or?
I had two that came to mind when I was writing that question. The first one was our client Wasabi, who we've been working with for 7, 8 years now. This would have been 2, 3 years ago. It was the first year that they were doing their sponsorship with the Fenway Bowl, which is like a college football bowl game that they sponsor at Fenway Park, which is super cool. But as part of their collaboration on that, we got to create like a nationally televised commercial. And we've since had, several commercials air regionally, nationally, all that stuff. But I remember watching ESPN and like watching the bowl game and like our commercial coming on and being like, whoa, that's our commercial. And it's the entire country is seeing it right now, which was pretty incredible. And the other one was when we had our NASDAQ Times Square moment. That was pretty damn cool.
That was pretty cool too.
Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Stay tuned for episodes that are going to be coming out, weekly regularity with awesome guests to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.